All right. Hi, everyone. I am Dr. Dana Lauer from Project ARC. And if you listen to our DIS podcast, the first one last month, this is going to be pretty much the same intro for everyone else that is new to listening. So many of you probably know me from my work in project-based learning, where I've tried to push it into that more authentic space so that our learners have the opportunity to affect real change in their world. In fact, the A in Project ARC stands for authenticity, and the rest of it is relevancy and community connected learning. So, for the past 2 decades plus, this work has really been my passion, and the journey has mostly been rewarding, but it has been bumpy at times. So in November, I put out a call on LinkedIn to connect with me if you considered yourself to be a disagreeable person in the education space. And this post was actually prompted by a quote from Adam Grant's New York Times bestseller, Think Again, The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know. And because I don't want to screw up the quote, I'm going to go ahead and read that from his book. And hopefully I can see it without my glasses on. The ideal members of a challenge network are disagreeable because they're fearless about questioning the way things have always been done and holding us accountable for thinking again. There's evidence that disagreeable people speak up more frequently, especially when leaders aren't receptive, and foster more task conflict. They give the critical feedback we may not want to hear, but need to hear. So, of course, that immediately took me to the space of education, even though Adam Grant wasn't specifically talking about education. So our guests today are really in that space where they might disagree with some aspects of education, and we don't know exactly what they're going to say. This is rather an unscripted conversation, which is exactly the way that we wanted it to be. But instead, really, Tim and I want to learn and grow as we really think again through this whole process of where are we in the education space and where do we need to go? So as the conversation unfolds over the next 35 minutes or so, we may be surprised. We may disagree with what they have to say, and who knows what's going to happen.
All right. Thank you, Dana. So I am Tim Kubik, partner in Project ARC, also working in questions of community connected and authentic project learning for almost 30 some years now. And we're gathered today around this concept of DIS, which is often seen as a negative beginning to a word. There are not a lot of words that we say dis and then follow it with something that makes it a positive word, although we did discover a few in our last conversation. I'm really happy to welcome Joy Verplank and Virginia Zubar today. And we're going to ask them to introduce themselves and share their dis word. And I'm going to ask Virginia for you to go first and then Joy. Okay? So tell us a little bit about yourself, and then what is your word beginning with dis that you would want to share with us?
Hi everyone, I'm Virginia. I'm from Kazakhstan. I'm a governmental worker and working in the system administration side. So, and also lead the extracurriculum classes in private schools teaching for programming languages, as well as facilitating the digital courses in Noble Learning PBC internship program. And this way, I will cut the long story and say that I strongly disagree with this current state of our education system because it often prioritizes producing students who merely follow instructions rather than encouraging critical thinking and innovation. And even with the access to modern technologies on my countries through the schools, the core issue lies in the resistance of many older generation educators to adapt to a new teaching method and tools. And also, I'm really disagree with this outdated approach has enlarged the gap between the high-performing students and those who require more time and personalized attention. And schools are too focused now on even the climbing the ranking systems and ratings, turning education into a competition rather than a process that nurtures well-rounded and capable individuals.
All right. Thank you, Virginia. I asked you to go first because you were so bold to wake up to be with us at 5 o'clock in the morning, your time. So I thought we should let you right out of the box since you're up early. Joy, how about you? Tell us a little bit about yourself and what is your DIS word to get us started?
Sure, I'm Joy Verplank. Most of my career has not been in K-12, though I did start in early childhood education and initially went to college to be a high school teacher, but shifted pretty fast. One class into my major, I changed my major, went into other things, and most of my career has been spent in adult learning and education or adult learning and development and leadership roles in various industries. But I recently came into public education as an administrator and a curriculum director in career technical education, CTE, formerly known as VOTech. And my DIS word is disheartened to see that there is still such a stigma around CTE, despite the fact that Gen Z is being called the tool belt generation. Probably because young adults don't want to enter the workforce with a $200,000 student loan debt and not be able to find a job. And the higher ed system certainly is struggling with lack of enrollment. And I think also employers are recognizing the systemic inequity in those having access historically to college. And so they're removing the degree requirement for a lot of white collar jobs. Yet parents, K-12 educators, guidance counselors, legislators, they're all still pushing kids to have this traditional pathway. And I'm struggling because people still, for some reason, are viewing technical education as a path to become this entry-level skilled technician. And that is a failure. If I asked our audience to imagine a room full of welders, mechanics, electricians, and machinists being addressed by their leader, most people would picture a room full of men being talked to by a man. And I think that's part of our failure to recognize technical education as a leadership pathway for girls. Coming from my own experience, if you're going to be a female leader in a technical space, it's really helpful, almost essential if you want to be respected, that you know how to do the skill. If we want to see more women leading in non-traditional careers, they have to know how to build the widgets, how to inspect for quality, how to innovate and design, and how to lead those who can. So I have another DIS word. I have disdain for anyone who sees CTE as the alternative for kids who develop behavioral problems in regular high school, because as a highly educated adult, I also become a behavioral problem when someone talks at me for 6 hours. So I think let's remove the disadvantage that we're creating for girls that could become the future shop owners and heads of manufacturing and let's start encouraging the valedictorian to go to CTE, because that's where they're going to become the creative force that our future needs.
Well, I appreciate, we've got 4 words on the table already, 4 words: disagree, dishearten, disdain, and disadvantage. And I appreciate that last point about disadvantage, for girls in particular, but also just because the things that we're disheartened about, the things that we disagree with, and the things that, yes, it's okay to say we disdain, um, are actually things that create a lot of disadvantages for some of our students in the classroom, right? And I loved what, Virginia, you had to say about the education system. You said it in a couple different places, but lumping it together is designed to reward high-performing instruction followers, right? That, like, that's what we reward, is people who can take direction well. And yet, as you point out, Joy, we have a tremendous need to develop leadership potential in kids, which will never happen if they're being talked at for hours and hours every day. Um, and so I want to explore that concept of disadvantage. What do we see as the disadvantages of the current system for young people who are in it, whether it's in Kazakhstan, whether in the States, whether in Africa, wherever, there are disadvantages. What are they? And Dana, feel free to jump in at any point also.
Well, I'm really interested to hear what Virginia and Joy have to say about those disadvantages, because I am intending tonight to, or this morning, depending on where you are, I'm intending to get into a disconfirming mindset. So that one popped up in an email today, and I said, oh, this is perfect, because it's really about seeking information that contradicts our beliefs. And I think that both of you really articulated that point, whether we're thinking about what traditional education looks like, to build the perfect student that can go out into the workforce, or whether or not females should be put into certain roles, or if we all need to go on to higher education, at that university level to attain, a certain set of status. But really trying to help ourselves avoid confirmation bias and make more objective decisions when we're thinking about education, because that's what really leads to increased innovation. So I'm in this disconfirming mindset, as I listen to the both of you really discuss, more of what Tim expanded on.
Well, to Virginia's point, we're missing a great opportunity to develop digital literacy right now. I think it was in the last roundtable that you had where somebody was talking about AI and how there is still hesitation to bring it into school. We should not be hesitating to bring things in that can challenge people to think critically. And if our educators are part of that limitation, or part of the barrier that is creating that disadvantage by not encouraging things that may not be right all the time, that may not always be perfect, that may not just follow specific rules, and you memorize and then you pass a test, and this is the way we've always taught things. So I think if we can break free from that fear that creates a barrier of inviting things in that will develop those critical thinking skills, I think that's a start.
So one disadvantage is that the traditional system is actually not preparing kids for the world that they will grow into, right? Because it's denying them access to technology. That is an important aspect of the world of the 21st century. Virginia, any thoughts from you on disadvantages that come from the traditional system?
Yeah, as an educator, I already said, I see that in the schools, it's more rather than teachers even centered approaches. Yes, it's all about them, and they are, how to say, create this curriculum, even implement over to their unique subjects and everything. But as the result, what I faced with when I talk to the children, they are like a Pavlov's dogs anyway. So they are only understand only commands.
Mm-hmm.
I asked them be more thinking critical and think outside the box, be more, and that the system, our approach of the curriculum should more student centered, because of I'm really inspired in the way when I see how they are thinking about what they can do this, how they unlimited these boundaries. If you give the space for them, for the children, for the students. Yes, and my disagreement is very high level in the way that the curriculum, without looking for all these changes and AI tools, because of AI tools is this another challenge for many educations. In this way, this brings the equality for the students, because of you could not see who is the best one, who is the bad one, and with whom you need to work more, give more your time and attention, who is the already taking the information very well. This is one is this gap between this rather good and the rather bad people, yes, so the students. But once they open their mouths, you see who been good in the AI tools, who been good in the taking the knowledge for sure as a human in this way. And yes, I'm very, very disagree with this integrating innovating tools like AI. We are still have this governmental centering approach through the teachers, educators in this way on my country, rather than student-centered approach. So I see how the pressure comes even from the governmental side for the teachers. Even you should do like this one, you should do like that one. You must do.
Mm-hmm.
Don't come outside of these limits. Don't be so creative. Don't be so, I don't know how to say even. Be open to the new ages.
And
Well,
that creates such a
go ahead, Joy.
disadvantage when, especially in career technical education, where the whole purpose of what we do is to prepare students for the reality of work. And yet it's so different from the reality of work. I think one of the things that innovators and CEOs really want, they're begging their people, come up with good ideas, challenge me. Psychological safety, growth mindset, think outside of the box, all of these things that the business world needs to survive. We are stifling in students by not encouraging them to challenge. Now, if I'm the educator in the front of the classroom, do I want to be challenged by every student? No. It's disruptive. It prevents you from meeting those governmental proficiency requirements and things like that. But there has to be a way, because it does create a disadvantage when they get out there and then they don't know how to think creatively for themselves, and they don't know how to speak diplomatically to their leadership about how to disagree and how to produce novel ideas.
Well, we have two more dis words that have popped up. Disruptive from Joy, which is not necessarily a negative word, although in a school context, it's usually seen as one. Like a disruptive student is a problem, right? But if you disrupt me from making a bad decision, that's a good thing, right? Like if someone disrupts me from going on a trip that I really shouldn't go on because it's a dangerous country or whatever, that's a good thing. But I also like that Virginia raised the question of discussion. And I think that's a very positive word. We were just talking with a school that we work with here in Colorado this morning that has made promoting discussion among their students one of their 3 or 4 goals for the year, and is working really, really hard to try to get beyond what, at least in education in the States, is called the turn and talk. Right. So you turn to the person sitting next to you and you talk to them for a moment or two, and then you go back to instruction. And I think this discussion is a really important part of whether it's career technical education or any kind of career preparation, right? Is you're creating more problems, I think, when you have a group of people who think they know what they're doing and don't need to talk to anybody else, right? Like I learned this in school. I don't need to talk to anybody. I can just do it. And they go ahead and do things without discussing it with other people. I'd like to discuss for a moment what you two or Dana jump in, think about this question of does allowing kids to talk to each other in class, and that also would include not only in conversations in class, but maybe, with their phones or other digital devices, right? Like, is that an important part of helping them accommodate to being good critical thinkers in the world of work outside of a school setting? So I'll throw that out there. What can discussion do for us to solve some of the disadvantages we've talked about?
Yeah, I think if we're trying to create future collaborators, it's essential. And the more diverse and divergent we become as workers, and the more we welcome in industry different opinions, we find that we are smarter and we are more capable of innovative ideas, and we can achieve more. So if we aren't willing to teach students how to challenge each other respectfully and produce ideas and have these side discussions. Now, I don't think that having phones is necessarily as productive as a structured breakout that provides a prompt and encourages thoughtful discussion. Yeah, I think there's ways to do it and achieve balance and achieve the goal.
Yeah, I may say from my side, on my country, actually, we, through the governmental side, should be revise the curriculum that the last 2 years of education curriculum, they are more directly pushed for the career, to choose for the career, yes, for the students. And this way, so they are limited some subjects being learned, yes, through these 2 years. So if you would like to be some medical stuff, you did choose only biology, chemistry, or something like this, yes. If you would like to be an engineer, so the physics, math, and move in this way. So, but it's been about 6 or 5 years ago we faced with this program curriculum, yes, from our government, but it's still nothing. It's still the same old curriculum we used up to today, yes, so no change has been done. And in this way also, I would like to say about these tools. I'm a programming language teaching, yes, person. And I love the AI tools very, very much, but I may say that without knowledge, without this proper educational skills, you could not even cope with these AI tools to prompt the right request to get the right result. And I see this drastically through my children, my students, yes, and even through the students from internship as well. They even have no idea how to cope rightly with the things. Yes, and in this way, I suppose we need to even change our curriculum and maybe lead more extra classes for working with AI tools in the real world, like all around the globe. We have a lot of courses, how to do the right prompts, how to everything, and let the children do the same way, yes. But in this way, this also will prompt the children and the students to create the right way of thinking, logical way how to do the things, for sure. And even for those, we grow the young leaders. It's not a secret, yes, all around the globe, who now become more open, more capable to face with this modern reality and shine like a stars in their future careers in this way. And I would like to say also about this is my motto for the life, to create the critical thinking young leaders for their life, and who are just cracked their shells, and to show our world the inner gem, what what they keep inside, for sure, to be more open, to shine, to say what they think about, yes, and be more grow and development. And that's why I love this PBL, to that we now have this project-based learning process, yes, to engage to this one. And also, I suppose we need to change the curriculum for creating more team building relationships between the classes, because of teammates knows better than teacher how to collaborate together and how to achieve the best result.
Yeah, I like how you both are kind of coming from this in parallel perspectives, but using different examples. And so, Joy, you were talking about structured discussions, and we often, we lead teachers through discussion protocols so that we can model the process for them with their learners, because sometimes, as Tim said, it's either just that turn and talk, and then you can't formatively assess and you have no idea what they're turning and talking about, or it's just this free-for-all discussion that happens, and you're not exactly sure if it's very productive. So having structure to the discussions and protocols that you put into place can lead students to start to uncover answers to questions that they might have that are elicited through those discussions. And Virginia, as you're talking about those AI tools, I think that right now a lot of teachers see that AI tool as a replacement and don't necessarily consider the discussions that could happen back and forth with a student and the AI tool, or a teacher and the AI tool, as they're trying to become more innovative and putting in supports that would ensure that our students know how to do some of that prompt engineering and have the discussions back and forth with the AI tools, or the teachers, and supporting them in the prompt engineering, so that maybe even when students might not know how to have a discussion with another human, it could be a nice place to practice those skills, or to get ideas for discussion prompts or questions that might be asked, so that they can have some sort of scaffolds in place so that they get better at discussions in classrooms. As Tim mentioned, a school that we're working with, we had a really big conversation about that this morning, and pushing their students into that space. And a lot of teachers that could have just said, I give up after the first attempt because I'm a little disgusted at the fact that they can't have a discussion. But it's not really that they can't have a discussion, it's that they need to be supported, and you need to help them through that process and model those discussion protocols, so that they can begin to find those inner gems within them, as Virginia mentioned.
So we are getting close to the end of our 30 to 40-minute conversation. Believe it or not, it's gone pretty quickly. And I appreciate some of the ideas that we've surfaced, and I wanted to introduce another dis word that I think is more positive, to offer everybody a chance for a final thought. And that word that's coming to mind for me is distribution. We tend to think of education as distribution from what the educator knows to what the students don't. What else might distribution mean for those of us who are disagreeable in education, rather than just distribution of the curriculum to the students?
Yeah,
Anybody's welcome to kick.
in the business world, we've got knowledge transfer and knowledge spillover. And I think if we could have some distribution across the lines of our classrooms, and break the silos of this class teaches this topic and this class teaches this topic, we could see how industry brings together multiple disciplines to accomplish one goal. And I'd like to see a broader distribution and assembly or connection across silos in education to mirror what we expect in business.
Yeah, but I'm not less about the business, more about the education process in this way. Yes, we need to do this assembling. Yes, and I would like to say that the dream is when the teacher is become on the one side with the students, so they are become equal. Yes, in this way. Yes, and this fusion of the knowledge of well-experienced person and with this sponging students who are eager and so greedy to take this information and knowledge, yes, meet together and will do this, the great artificial intelligence and human intelligence together. Like the great symbiosis of these two intelligence. This is my dream actually, yes, and this is our future as well. It's, I suppose, already nearly in the next year. In 2025 we will see this outcome of this fusion of this intelligence, how it's happened for sure. I'm really pray for this one as well. And also I would like to say that we need to create a more relevant and community driving learning experience, yes, and bring more PBL project-based learning experience through this educational process, and let our students shine, be more open, and push them to be more outside of the box. Ask them, because of they are really those who even teach me as a teacher.
Yes.
A
Great
lot.
concluding thought. I think that's something that Dana and I have always enjoyed very much also, whether we're working with young students or older student or adult learners. And quite honestly, we've gotten much better at our job because a lot of teachers have taught us a lot of things over the years. Dana, final thought to you?
Yeah, and I would say really kind of playing again off of both our guests here is thinking about education in distributing the responsibility, not just from teacher to student, but from teacher to community partner, which I think that both of you have kind of alluded to, because it's not just the responsibility of the teacher to know everything. And we can't, as educators, know everything. And if we are going to allow our learners to experience an authentic or relevant and community connected project, we can't be the experts in everything. And so we really have to distribute some of that responsibility to community partners that we as educators can learn from, and that our students can learn from as well.
And I'll just close by saying that kind of distribution can actually make lives a lot easier for us as educators. I have a colleague at a school just north of where I live in Colorado. Her name is Kendra Vare. She teaches 8th grade middle school, and she has a big sign above the door to her classroom that as you walk into the room, you see it above the door. It says, "If kids can do it, I don't." Right? And she's learned to take a lot of things off of her plate that way. I think distribution is a really nice way to end this episode of DIST, thinking about how we can better share the responsibilities that we all have as educators and learners in our classroom space. And I've certainly enjoyed the discussion and the sharing with the two of you today. Thanks so much for joining us.